How's it going, Star Seekers? I hope everyone's doing well, and welcome back to the channel. Now in this review we're going to be taking a look at a game called The Pillar Puzzle Escape. It's an exploration puzzle game where you have to solve a variety of puzzles whilst exploring, and from its visuals it's clear that The Pillar has been influenced by one of my favourite puzzle adventure games, The Witness. Putting appearances aside though, does The Pillar offer anything new to tickle our brains with? And will it tide us over until The Witness finally gets a Nintendo Switch port? Let's jump into this review and find out. So taking another leaf out of The Witness's book, The Pillar begins right away without any sort of explanation as to who you are or where you are. We find ourselves in some sort of tomb, dimly lit by candlelight, and after making our way to the surface we spot our first puzzle ahead of us. Beside it, a pinky purple looking pillar that the game is named after. Now the first puzzles the game introduces us to are simple line drawing puzzles. In these we have to connect coloured squares on a grid by drawing lines between them, but lines cannot intersect, and at the same time we need to cover all the white spaces on the grid. After completing this single puzzle we then proceed onward to the end of the level, and each time we complete a level, a little more is revealed about the mysterious pillar via an animated cutscene. Now unlike the open world design of The Witness, the pillar is instead split into stages, and we must solve all puzzles within a stage to open the exit door and proceed to the next stage. Stages themselves are all quite varied, featuring some nice visuals, but while there are a few puzzle elements in the game that do require you to explore and be observant of your surroundings, the majority of the game's puzzles take place on the gridded boards, usually strapped to the sides of pillars which rise from the ground. Now when it comes to puzzle variety in The Pillar, there are 4 main puzzle types that you'll encounter throughout your time playing. Firstly, you have the colour linking puzzles, which if you've ever played games like Lines XL you should be quite familiar with. Next, there are puzzles where you have to fill all the white grid sections with a single colour, but you can't go over the same square twice. Thirdly, there are puzzles where your coloured block can only move in straight lines and must stop on a non-coloured square, and again you have to colour all the squares with these puzzles. And finally, my least favourite puzzle of the 4 are the memory puzzles, which require you to memorise a sequence of colour movements and then retrace those movements painting blocks as you go. Now there are a few other types of unique puzzle that you'll find within each level. Among these are ones which require you to rotate and line up lasers, several where you need to find a series of numbers in levels and input them into a keypad, and others where you need to input a pattern that's hidden somewhere in the level into a blank grid. While I did enjoy these small detours and they added a little variety to levels, compared to the 4 puzzles I mentioned previously there were very few of them, and this brings me on to my first major gripe about The Pillar. While The Witness contains a huge amount of variety to its puzzles, with many of them implemented directly into the environment, in The Pillar very little of the environment is used, and when it is, puzzles are sometimes poorly implemented. Take for example this area with portals, which requires you to move back and forth between portals solving puzzles. Instead of just opening new portals which lead on to the next puzzle, you instead have to go in and out of portals, forcing them to change colour to get to the next areas. While this wouldn't be a huge issue if it were a puzzle on its own, within each portal area you have a set of numbers and glyphs to memorise, which are then used at the end of the level. So if you haven't memorised the sequence of numbers or which glyph matches the coloured portal, you end up having to do the whole portal dance all over again. Oh, and there's also this incredibly frustrating maze section. Now not only did I find that the 4 standard puzzles became ever more monotonous as the game went on, I found the puzzles themselves were very inconsistent with how difficult they were. Now you would imagine that puzzles would become more complex as you get further into the game, and while that's partly the case, even late on in the game you'll still get puzzles like this, followed by puzzles like this. This inconsistency occurred time and time again, and if you make one mistake when trying to solve these memory puzzles, then you have to watch the whole animation all over again. Now I'm not saying that The Pillar is a bad puzzle game, far from it. I did find it got better the further I got into it, but by that point I was already pretty tired of solving the same types of puzzles, and for me the Pillar didn't really do much to stand out against other similar puzzle games. I personally find that my favourite types of puzzle games are ones which continually present you with new mechanics to learn and understand to overcome increasingly more challenging puzzles, but once I understood the rules of the 4 main puzzles in the Pillar, there simply wasn't that much else to challenge me. When it comes to the game's storyline, whilst it doesn't really play a major part, I will say that after playing through the game, which took me around 5 hours, I'm still not quite sure what message the Pillar was trying to convey. If you're left wanting a little more time with the game after the credits roll, then you can scour each level to find stone pieces, which fit together to create some murals featuring some nice artwork. Now it's easy to draw similarities between The Pillar and The Witness. Both games feature similar stylized visuals and contain grid-based and environmental puzzles, but despite my own preference, I feel I would be discrediting the creators of The Pillar to say one is better than the other, so I'll end by saying that The Pillar offers a much more casual puzzle experience, and its linear level progression removes the need to question where you need to go to find your next puzzle. If you go into this game like me expecting a gameplay experience as extravagant as The Witness, then you'll likely be disappointed. But if you're just looking for a casual puzzle game where you don't need to think too hard about the solutions, then I recommend giving The Pillar a go. So now let's get on to rating the game. Now I give games a rating between 1 and 5 stars, and this is based on my own personal opinion on the quality and quantity of a title's gameplay and whether I think it offers value for money to potential buyers. For a rating, I'm going to be giving The Pillar Puzzle Escape 3 out of 5 stars. While I found its main puzzle elements did become a bit repetitive and it didn't quite offer the level of challenge that I was looking for, The Pillar is still a decent puzzle game for those who found The Witness overly large and complex, but enjoyed its visuals and earlier simpler puzzles. You can get The Pillar Puzzle Escape from the UK Switch eShop, where it's usually priced at £8.99. Or from the US eShop, where it's usually priced at $9.99. Alternatively, the game's also available on PlayStation, Xbox and Steam. And that about wraps up this review of The Pillar Puzzle Escape. If you enjoyed it and it helped you out, don't forget to hit that like button, and consider subscribing to the channel as I post new reviews of Nintendo Switch games every few days. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.